Hey everyone, how's your day going? Now that we're in 2021 and we have a new president here in the US, I want to talk about the financial impact of a Joe Biden presidency, especially when it comes to student loans. The average borrower has around 35 grand in student loans. This kind of debt has proven to be a big wall to climb for new graduates as they begin their careers. One of the biggest issues with student loans is that they mostly aren't tied to employment in any way. If you decide to pursue a job in a field that doesn't pay a lot or can't get a job, you're still obligated to repay your loan in full. This monthly expense also makes it difficult for new graduates to save and invest. This issue hasn't gone unnoticed by politicians, with several touting student loan forgiveness as a major selling point of their election campaigns. Today, I'm going to cover some of the plans laid out by Joe Biden, what impact will have on college graduates, as well as existing and future students. If you're new to the channel, I make videos dedicated to investing and personal finance. If that's something that interests you, consider subscribing and clicking on the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. The signature part of Joe Biden's education plan is to offer 10 grand a year of student loan forgiveness to anyone that pursues a career related to national or community service for up to 5 years. Individuals working in schools, government, or other nonprofit settings would be automatically enrolled in this forgiveness program. Anyone that has already completed 5 years of this service would also qualify. Given that college can cost up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, 10 grand doesn't seem like a lot. However, there are many people that would benefit greatly from forgiveness. According to CNBC, Joe Biden's proposal would completely eliminate student loans for 10 million borrowers. The country's total student loan debt of 1.7 trillion would be reduced by nearly a third. Biden's proposal is a response to a population clamoring for change. Prior to the COVID pandemic, nearly 1 in 4 student loan borrowers were in delinquency or default. This is troubling given that student loans are one of the biggest sources of debt. Our student loan debt is even higher than debt related to cars or credit cards. Despite the common knowledge of the risk of student loan debt, many Americans feel as if they have no choice but to take it on. Thanks to technology and globalization, our economy and our jobs are changing faster than ever. A 12-year education isn't enough for most career paths. According to Biden's education plan, roughly 6 out of 10 jobs require some education beyond a high school diploma. Now that Joe Biden has assumed the presidency, how would he go about implementing his plan? One possibility that's been discussed is for the president to issue an executive order. An executive order is simply a directive from a U.S. president, instructing an agency or person within the executive branch to do something. A bigger question arises if President Biden would be allowed to issue an executive order that affects the finances of the U.S. government without congressional approval. This is generally not allowed, as the system of checks and balances is designed to prevent a president from spending unlimited amounts of money on whatever he or she wants to do. However, there may be some precedents that allows President Biden to use an executive order to forgive student loan debt. According to the Higher Education Act of 1965, the executive branch has the authority to change or waive debts related to education. Such a power was actually used just last August when President Trump issued an executive order to suspend debt payments for the remainder of the year. The order was made on the grounds of economic hardship. It stands to reason that President Biden would cite similar hardship grounds if he decides to use an executive order to forgive student loans. Student loan forgiveness can create an emotional public response, since it affects many people in different ways. The benefits of forgiving student loans are numerous. People would have more cash to spend or save for the future. They would have more flexibility to pursue meaningful careers that don't pay as much, like teaching or social work. Less debt would also benefit people's credit scores, helping them to get a mortgage and a house. But there are other ramifications as well. What about the people that graduate college without any student loan debt? Many parents work incredibly hard and sacrifice to send their children to college. Many students that don't have this good fortune take on 1 or more jobs during college in order to pay their way through. Opponents of student loan forgiveness feel that it doesn't do anything to help those that made it through college without debt. Some more extreme opinions feel that it rewards people that were irresponsible, people that took out loans when they knew they couldn't afford it, or aren't willing to work hard to get a good job to pay them off. Another question arises over the long term. If President Biden is able to successfully issue an executive order to forgive student loans, a president in the future could issue another executive order to reverse that policy. College is a long-term commitment. While most students attend college for 2 to 4 years, Many of those decisions are planned years in advance. What happens if someone goes to college thinking they'll be able to have loans forgiven? Then they find out upon graduation that the program no longer exists. This occurrence has some precedents. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program of 2007 stipulated that people could have their loans forgiven if they worked for a qualifying company for 10 years and made on-time loan payments. As people began becoming eligible for forgiveness in 2017, some began learning that the job they held was no longer eligible, and their loans weren't eligible for forgiveness. Several media outlets reported that 99% of applicants to this program had their application rejected. An executive order by President Biden might be enough to get student loan forgiveness off the ground, but a lot needs to be clarified before people can trust that it will be there when they need it. Another major proposal by President Biden is to make community college or other job training programs completely free. This proposal actually has its roots from the Obama administration. I personally feel that this plan has a much better chance of providing long-term benefits. Many people do not have the desire, test scores, or financial means to consider a traditional four-year college. Making higher education available to them at no cost would allow them to be better trained for their career ahead. People that want to graduate from a four-year university would still have the option to transfer there after their 2 years are up. If I could go back in time, I definitely would have gone to community college for 2 years before transferring to a four-year college. Most four-year college students spend the first half of college taking many of the same gen ed classes that they took in high school. The ability to get through this part of college for free before taking on classes that are more specific to their major is a path that I believe more potential college students should consider. This option would also significantly benefit students that work during college. Instead of using their paycheck to cover the first 2 years of tuition, students could save that money and then apply it to years 3 and 4 of their education. This would increase their chances of graduating completely debt-free. One side benefit of President Biden's proposal is that it includes trade schools and job training programs. I've always believed that a lot of people pursue a traditional college education only because that's the most common path. There are a lot of people out there that would be better off by learning a specific craft, like being a mechanic, a welder, or a plumber. That time and energy would lead them directly to a job in that field. College isn't for everyone, yet somehow many people go into it without having a plan for what they want to do with their degree. I realize that identifying your life's calling at the age of 18 can be incredibly difficult, but the more attention that we place on this, the better off people will be. So that covers some of the major points of President Biden's education plan. Understanding how you're going to pay for college and what options you have when your loans come due is an important part of mastering the journey to financial success and independence. I think that student loans are only going to generate more discussion and attention in the coming years, and those conversations could eventually lead to changes in how we educate our population after high school. Technology and the COVID crisis have shown that it's possible to conduct classes online. That could ultimately drive down education costs, as professors are no longer limited by the size of their classrooms. That wraps up the video for today. Do you have student loans? If so, what are you doing to help pay them off? Leave a comment below, as I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.